Good morning and welcome to our virtual service. My name is James Parker. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today. Let's get started today. I've got a great one for you. My lesson title is Total Surrender, a new level of strength and empowerment. Friends, every day in this world is an unsteady, questionable, uncertain, constantly changing situation. And that causes us to try to get control. We create lists, systems, routines, schedules, comfort foods, comfortable environments. We build our whole lives and identities around these comforts and control. We try to control the uncontrollable, ever-shifting circumstances of our lives. And it doesn't work. So we get stressed, procrastinate, feel hurt, get depressed, become broken or anxious, get angry or frustrated, lash out or complain. But why not try surrendering? Why not state your truth? In Job 22, verse 28, it says, "Thou shalt decree a thing, and it shall come to thee, and light shall shine in thy ways." By surrendering to these often adverse conditions, we are declaring our freedom. We are proclaiming that these conditions no longer serve a purpose in the larger scheme of our lives. Ultimately, we are decreeing that these states of affair have no power here. In Proverbs 16:9, it says, "We can make our plans, but the Lord determines our steps." In a recent church docuseries, there was a parable depicted as the paradox of surrender in action. It said a minister feels a calling to start a new church. He gathers a small group, starts services, and waits for a sense of what to do next. After a year, he continues to hold service, but the church has barely grown in numbers or in mission. Eventually, the minister cries out to God, "Why did you call me and then give me no more direction? Now I have to shut down the church for lack of money and interest." Another minister feels a calling to work at an established church. Determined to follow his calling, he pushes through everything that could slow him down. At the end of a year, the church attendance is flourishing, but the people seem to have never-ending complaints and anxiety. The minister, feeling worn, goes to prayer. "God, you called me to this church. I haven't let anything stop me from that mission, but I'm tired." He then puts his head down and pushes forward. Another year or two passes and he cries out, "God, I followed your call for this church for a few years now. I've not given up, but now I'm too tired to go on." After another year and an exhaustion, the minister decides to hand over the church and step down. A third man feels a need to begin a gathering of friends to discuss and share beliefs. After a few months, the group expands a bit and the man responds to the request of the group by starting new experiences that they can share as a community. Suddenly, the church and the community falls victim to COVID. Yet eventually, someone volunteers to start a community service project and the man lends his support to get it off the ground. One day, the man stops and prays, "God, I keep listening and acting on the world around me. Couldn't you have given me a warning that you were making me into a minister?" Now, which of these do you believe is allowing the Lord to determine his steps? Where do you find yourself in this story? And what does it mean? Actually, it's the idea of letting go, releasing the need to make our lives and world exactly as we like it, and instead relaxing, accepting, even surrendering to your truth and the truth of the universe. Surrendering means we let go of trying to control everything and smile with love and goodness at the world as it is, beautiful and amazing. To surrender in spirituality and religion means that a believer completely gives up his or her own will and subjects their thoughts, ideas, challenges, and deeds to the will and teachings of a higher power. Surrender itself is willful acceptance and yielding to source. It comes from the Latin root Cupio dissolvi, and literally means "I wish to be dissolved," which expresses the desire to leave the earthly life and join with Christ. In Christianity, the first main principle of surrender is dying to self or the carrying of your own cross, allowing the Christ presence to reign and rule over one's life. In the book of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 24, it says, "Then said Jesus unto his disciples, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me." Have you ever thought how much easier life could be if all our states of consciousness are the state of surrender? Have you noticed how the word surrender often brings up images of giving up, waving the white flag, or conceding a loss? It sounds like an act that is exceedingly disempowering. But to the contrary, it is a new level of strength and empowerment. As a matter of fact, in spiritual and metaphysical circles, the practice of surrender is defined as having a belief that as deeply as we are willing to let go, Spirit is willing to fill us up. Let me repeat that. The practice of surrender is defined as having a belief that as deeply as we are willing to let go, Spirit is willing to fill us up. Isn't that extraordinary? Aristotle coined the phrase, nature abhors a vacuum. It means that nature contains no vacuums because the denser surrounding material continuum would immediately fill the rarity of an incipient void. Explained spiritually, this means that whenever we release or surrender need, desire, control, or lack of limited beliefs, the universe instantly moves upon us to fill the void with wisdom, love, healing, prosperity, joy, and good. In spirit, through the use of surrender, there is no lack or division, only expansion, increase, multiplication, and positive transformation. In the Bible, Elijah, who was Jehovah's champion in a hostile land, went against overwhelming odds and killed hundreds of prophets of Baal, bringing down upon him the wrath of Queen Jezebel. So Elijah fled for his life. Discouraged, tired, disheartened, he sat down under a tree and cried out, "It is enough now, O Jehovah, take my life away." Then he dropped off to sleep. From there, we are told that an angel touched him and instructed him to journey on. For 40 days he traveled until he reached Mount Horeb. There, he experienced a profound revelation that God is not in the wind or in the earthquake or in the fire, but within, in the still small voice. Let's examine this story metaphysically and in the context of surrender. So Elijah is fighting a people who believe in many gods. Could we look at this as our struggle against the many thoughts we make our gods? You know, the mind chatter, the stinking thinking, the self-talk, the false beliefs and erroneous thoughts, the old ideas, the fears, the littleness, the controller, the insecurity, the worrier, the judger, the self-criticizer, the gossiper, the know-it-all, the one who believes in duality. Like Elijah, it can be draining, right? So Elijah is exhausted and runs away, discouraged, afraid for his life, dejected, and sits under a tree and says, "That's enough, God, take me away." Now this sounds on the surface like a white flag experience, giving up or conceding, doesn't it? But really, given how the story unfolds, it isn't that at all. Rather, it is a moment of total surrender to God. He's giving up the fight, the battle. And when he did that, when he made a total surrender to God, letting go of the struggle of the opposing or negative aspects, he fell asleep. He could rest. The human mind was finally quiet, and it was then, and only then, that the angel came to him and touched him. The angel symbolizes that of the divine idea coming forth. And this idea was to continue his journey. And so he did. And his journey was for 40 days. 40 is the universal number for all the time it takes for spiritual awakening and completion. Jesus was in the desert for 40 days. Moses in the wilderness for 40 years. Buddha, 49 days under the Bodhi tree. And after his journey of 40 days, or after journeying to completion in consciousness, Elijah came to a profound realization. He realized that outer experiences, all the things that his human mind had been fighting so hard over, had no power over him, but that his power came from the inside, through the still small voice of God. This is a wonderful demonstration of the power of ending the battle, getting quiet, and being willing to listen. Just try it. Listen for the still small voice. It is the voice of God within us. When we surrender to the still small voice, we are really surrendering to the will of God and thus opening the way for God to transform our lives and make our dreams come true. Friends, everyone has a dream. Everyone wants to live beyond their present means and enjoy a comfortable life. But to reach your dream of a new life, you must be willing to let go or surrender the old life. You know, the one you wish you could escape from, or the one that finds you lonely or bored or not enough. The one that sometimes finds you challenged, depressed, regretful, or fearful. The one that lacks vision, gets jealous or envious of others, or is easily frustrated or angered. These thoughts, beliefs, and ideas can be wicked and can do wicked things when we allow ourselves to hold them inside. In The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy falls asleep after plunging deep in a dream. She and Toto land in Oz, killing the Witch of the East when the house falls on her. She meets Glinda the Good Witch and the Munchkins, but suddenly the Wicked Witch of the West appears and seems very evil, angry, and threatening. In this dream, Glinda distracts the Witch of the West and transfers the magical ruby slippers from the Witch of the East laying under the house over to Dorothy's feet. This enrages the Witch of the West even more, but Glinda tells her, "Be gone. You have no power here." Honestly, this was the lesson for Dorothy. She had to learn this in the end, that through surrender, nothing negative or seeming wicked inside or outside of her consciousness had power over her. And this is the same statement we must adopt and own and say to our negative and wicked thoughts and beliefs as we surrender them and let them go. Be gone, you robber of potential, or anything or anyone holding me back from my highest and best. Be gone, fear of abandonment, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of success. You have no power here. Be gone, poverty. You have no power here. Be gone, lack, limitation, jealousy, envy, discouragement, insecurity. You are powerless. Be gone, control freak, procrastinator, micromanager, divisive person, know-it-all. You have no power over me. Be gone, heartache, unforgiveness, low self-esteem, high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, dementia. I release you. You have no power here. Yes, we all wish and dream for something transformative to occur in this short life, but first we must surrender all. A few months ago, I told the story of Oprah surrendering to her fear of not being good enough to land the role she auditioned for in The Color Purple. Let's watch the video.
Now, everybody works hard, and everybody has their own dreams. But this is what I learned. When you can surrender to the dream, you get to live in the space of the higher power. You get to live in the space that you purposefully have come to earth to claim for yourself. It taught me when you've done everything you can do, you don't just have to stand. When you've prayed and cried and stood and tried some more and sacrificed and wanted and dreamed and held on and believed and got turned down and turned back and turned around, it taught me that when you've done everything you can do, surrender all. Surrender all. Because there's a bigger dream. There's a bigger dream waiting for you, just waiting for you to step into it. To step into it. Your life is big. Your life is huge. And we spend so much time wanting to be in somebody else's life. And you don't get honored, you don't get revered, you don't get celebrating wanting what somebody else has. And you get no credit messing in somebody else's territory or trying to have power over something you have no control. Another one of my favorite teachings is The Wizard of Oz. When the Wicked Witch of the West says, go away from here because you don't have any power here, you have no power in any territory other than your own. Oh, but you are the master of that. You get to be the master of your own fate. You get to be the captain of your own soul. And if you just manage that, if you just took care of your territory, oh, the glorious, 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 wondrous, wondrous opportunities and possibilities that are waiting for you. So the question is, what are you resisting? What are you pushing against? What are you not allowing? What are you blocking because you have this idea of who and what you're supposed to be, instead of leaning into the dream that's already been created and waiting for you?
Mohanji said, when total surrender happens, suffering is removed. Friends, worldly conditions and situations have no power here. You are much more than you can imagine. Perhaps you are fearful of this surrender thing. Perhaps something wicked yet powerless is invading your thoughts and dreams. Perhaps you found a way to become comfortable with resisting and blocking your flow of abundance and prosperity. Perhaps you are afraid to turn it all over to the will of God. But just for today, declare and decree the words, be gone. Look for the total surrender and see things from a different perspective, from a different point of view. Doing this, there's a greater possibility that you will transform your life for the better and make all your dreams and desires come true. Start now. Seek the way of the light. See surrendering to God's will as an experience of laying down the small self, the old ideas, the fears, the littleness, the warring or wicked factions within your mind. See it as a willingness to step into the unknown, the greater, the higher self's expression, which is never fully revealed until the moment is revealed. And finally, see total surrender to God's will as being willing to lay down all that we think we know to the one that knows beyond what we see. If you do this, I promise you, you will experience a new level of strength and empowerment. Give it a try today. Are you willing to do this with me? Well, thank you all, and God bless you.